Remember, everyone, Curt Hennig was the greatest wrestler to ever live because nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 8 of Curt Hennig Was the Best, Changed My Mind. Today on our Perfect Podcast, we're going to watch Curt's heel turn to the NWO. I have to say, this is my absolute favorite turn of all time. The reason is because I had a feeling it was going to happen. Though I have to say that timing was a little off when he joined the Four Horsemen to when he turned on them at Fall Brawl. I believe that if they wanted to make the storyline more interesting, they should have let Curt join the Four Horsemen when he came in the end of June of 97. This would have gotten the fans to trust in Curt, then turning on them at Fall Brawl, which in my opinion would have gotten him more heat. Though they still got the point across, I just believe it should have happened slightly earlier. Nonetheless, it happened as it should have. So please join me on Peacock. Please make sure you search for Fall Brawl 1997 and skip ahead to the double cage match at the end. We'll start with a little backstory. During another match, the NWO was spotted coming out of the break room with snack machines, and that is where Mean Gene found Curt Hennig on the floor writhing in pain. We will start at 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 58 seconds. When I say start, you can start. If I say stop or pause, make sure you're pausing to hear extra comments. Before we start this watch along, you can find this podcast on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to donate to keep the show, donate to me over PayPal. Please contact me at MrPerfectIsPerfect0328@gmail.com to get my handle to donate today. Well, welcome back to the comments I'm going to make. So I just want to do a little backstory on this. I had been watching WCW at the time, and I definitely knew that Curt was going to turn. I had the feeling that he was going to turn, and I just want to tell everyone I'm getting over a cold. I still have a bit of a head cold, so if I sound a little froggy, I'm sorry. Like I said, I am still getting over a cold. But let's go back to the backstory. In 97, I had seen Curt come in at the end of June, and Bobby Heenan had made the comment of, "Oh no, there's a spy among us." And everyone believed that the correlation of Curt coming in at the end of 97 kind of went along with his, with the comment made. So that was the kind of thing, kind of like a cliffhanger of, oh no, who's the spy? Who is coming in? And around the time that comment was made, like I said, is when Curt came in. So when he first came in, he was against Diamond Dallas Page because he had turned on him at Bash at the Beach. Now, I have a few things to say about that. I don't think it should have happened like that. I think he should have came in and right away joined the Four Horsemen. And so just to elaborate on some of my first comments, I believe it happened a little too fast. I believe he joined the Four Horsemen way too fast. I mean, he was only there for a couple of weeks. He was in the Four Horsemen, and then he ended up turning on them at Fall Brawl. So I believe it just for the storyline, in my opinion. I mean, you can go and listen to Eric Bischoff. I'm pretty sure he'd say that it was perfect the way it was. No offense to Mr. Perfect. Wherever he is. I just believe that it should have happened at the beginning. So instead of the whole Bash at the Beach thing, I think it just should have been Flair coming out and saying, "Hey, Curt, join us." And then he just goes, "Yes, okay, fine. I will join the Four Horsemen." I believe that would have made the fans believe him and believe in him that he really wanted to be a part of the Four Horsemen instead of just, "Oh, well, I don't really want to join anybody. I'm just kind of a free agent kind of thing." I just believe that the storyline would have been more believable or a little bit more interesting if he had actually come in and said, "Yeah, okay, I'll be a part of the Four Horsemen." Or I do believe that he should have not have joined the Four Horsemen at all. That he just should have come in. No one really knew where he was going to come from, and kind of be like that, like, I go to the highest bidder, and that would be the NWO. How they could have done that is they could have gotten, they could have kept Jeff Jarrett in the Four Horsemen. Now, I've been listening to Jeff's podcast. I wasn't a big Jeff Jarrett fan, but I have been listening to his podcast, and I do believe that he was a part of the Four Horsemen. Sorry, his podcast partner, I believe that Jeff was part of the Four Horsemen. They even said it on the commentators even said it, that he was a part of the Four Horsemen. So, Conrad. I couldn't think of Conrad's name. I'm sorry, Conrad. Please excuse me for that. So, sorry, Conrad, but I do think that Jeff Jarrett was a part of the Four Horsemen, because they even said it. The commentators even said that he was. And I'm sure that, Ric Flair would say it too. So anyway, the angle of the storyline just didn't kind of fit. It just, in my opinion, and I'm not any kind of story writer or storyline writer. I don't write for the WWF the WWE. In my day it was the WWF, but I don't, I never wrote a storyline in my life, but I would just like to think that as a fan, to spice it up, either you have Curt join at the beginning or you don't have him join at all. This is not black or white. I'm just saying that it would be interesting, and I think that Curt would have gotten more heat if he had joined the Four Horsemen in the beginning, and for them to come back and say, that person, that mean guy, he turned his back on everything that the Four Horsemen stood for. I don't see anything wrong. I disagree with Eric Bischoff. I don't see anything wrong with doing the heel turn in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's how you get heat. And we're talking major heat here, because in the DVD that I saw, Flair was talking about how he wanted to recreate the cage match, or the cage door being slammed like he did to Kerry Von Erich in the 80s. So I think that was great. That was exactly what Curt needed to do to get the most heat he could on himself. I just think that getting there could have been a little more polished. And I don't blame Curt for it, because he probably just didn't want to join the Four Horsemen for whatever reason. No one knows that except for Curt and the people who were involved. So I think that, my thing would have been, if I could talk to Curt, would be, hey, Curt, why don't you do one of two things? So either you join the Four Horsemen at the beginning and make all the fans trust you and like you, and yes, I'm a Four Horseman, and then once you get to Fall Brawl, oh no, the SOB, he turned, that mean guy, he turned his back on all of us. So all of the Four Horsemen fans, which were basically in the South, I'm sure there was plenty in the North, but all those fans that had adored the Four Horsemen, whether you go back to when it was, Arn Anderson and J.J. Dillon and all the, Tully Blanchard, all of the main people that were the Four Horsemen. So it's kind of like Curt destroyed all of that. But I would have not have given him 2 weeks with the Four Horsemen. I would have given him, 3 months or 2 months or something like that. So 2 or 3 months with the Four Horsemen, or you just say, no, I'm not going to do this at all. And I'll just, do the storyline of, I think if they had found a fourth horseman, whether it be Jeff Jarrett or whoever it was, and then Curt just comes out and pretends, at Fall Brawl, pretends that he's going to help the Four Horsemen like he did, but instead of joining them, he would pretend for a few seconds, to be, oh yeah, I'm on your side, rah, 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 Four Horsemen, and then he just turns on them. I think that stuff would make more sense than what actually happened. But again, I'm not a storyline person or writer. I just think that some of the fans kind of felt like, wait, what's going on here? He was a part of the Four Horsemen and now he's NWO. It just happened all too fast. And I think some of the fans kind of felt like, I don't know what's going on. But ever since Curt came in to the WCW in the end of June of 97, I really think that he was destined to become an NWO member. They kind of like, the whole, and you can hear the commentators saying, on later Nitros, oh, who brought up the fact that they, saw Curt talking with Eric Bischoff? Flair did. Flair brought it up. And he was actually kind of like miffed about it. So, and Curt said, yeah, of course I was talking to Eric Bischoff, that whole thing. I just think that instead of doing all that, I think it just would have been better if I had joined, not me, if Curt had joined the, Four Horsemen. I think that just would have been better for them, and better for him. That way he could kind of get his storyline out. The stuff with DDP would have been better if he was not WCW to begin with. If he had just either, waited for the DDP stuff. I honestly, I think the DDP stuff, especially at Hog Wild, it should have been, more like Starrcade or, even if you go into like 1998, before he did all that stuff with Bret Hart at Uncensored. Now Curt was out with an injury in 98. He also was in Japan, I think for like a week or something. So that was probably his time that he didn't have to work. Cause it kind of seemed like every year around January and February, he didn't really work. So I'm guessing that's where he was at the time. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. But I think that it would have been better if they had just done the storyline differently. It would have given Curt more credibility. And his character would have gotten so much more heat if he had just, joined the Four Horsemen at the beginning. And that's probably what Curt would think about today. Like maybe, just joining the Four Horsemen at the beginning instead of waiting so long and waiting so long and waiting so long. And the parody, I'm sure Curt was in the back laughing it up. Okay. Let me just tell you, I thought the NWO parody on the Four Horsemen was hilarious. Now you have people who are like, oh, it was distasteful. I don't think it was. It was for its time. It was something new, something that gave the NWO a lot of heat, especially with Horseman fans. But the NWO fans were laughing it up, okay? People like me, because I was a big NWO fan and I really didn't like the Four Horsemen. Sorry guys, but I'm not a big Ric Flair fan. And I'm not a big Arn Anderson fan either. I like the NWO, okay? So, the NWO to me they were baby faces, but to a Four Horsemen fan, they were heels. And that's to be understandable. And I understand that, people were saying that it made Arn Anderson look like a drunk. I don't think so. It was fun. Because, when Sean Waltman went to WWF, sorry, in my day it was WWF, I'll just say WWE for now. But when he went to the WWE in 98, unfortunately, or fortunately, no one complained about when DX made fun of the Nation of Domination. No one had a hissy fit. The same thing for Vince McMahon. I'm sure Vince was in the back laughing it up when they made fun of the corporation. During the whole Austin McMahon feud, and DX came out and it was so hilarious to see Road Dogg with the two little midgets behind him, as, you know, that was Jared Briscoe and Pat Patterson, because they were, you know, butt kissers. And it was hilarious. But no one said anything when they did it in the WWE, but everyone had a hissy fit about, I mean, the whole thing about Pat Patterson and Jared Briscoe, that should have tipped someone off, but they were probably all in the back just laughing it all up. You know, I'm just saying, I don't think Curt would have a problem with the parody. I don't think he had a problem with it at all. He was probably in the back laughing it up, because remember, we're talking about the king of ribs here. So he probably thought, oh, that's a good rib. Even though Buff Bagwell, no offense, Marcus, but you made a horrible Curt Hennig. Horrible. You guys don't even look alike. No, I'm joking, of course. But, I mean, to be honest and be fair, the parody in my eyes was the funniest thing I had ever seen in my life. And I know a lot of people got a little butthurt over it. But again, no one complained when it was Vince McMahon they were making fun of, or The Rock when Triple H dressed up as the Croc. Does everyone remember that? Of course you do. And it was hilarious. It was funny. And that's what the NWO was trying to do when they did the parody on the Four Horsemen. So I don't agree with Ric Flair, and I don't agree with Eric Bischoff that, oh, well, we shouldn't have done it. Now looking back on it, we shouldn't have done it. No, you should have did it. You should have done it more than that. Because that's hilarious. And like I said, I'm sure Curt was in the back laughing it up. He probably thought it was funny as anything he's ever seen. And probably ribbed the NWO, you know, the guys, Kevin Nash and Conan. He probably ribbed those guys afterwards. Like, ha ha ha, okay, I can get you back. Remember, guys, we're talking about the king of ribs. Who was Curt Hennig? You know, he had fun. That's the main thing, is you laugh at, if you can laugh at yourself, and, you know, if they were making fun of, I don't know, politics of the day. I mean, does everyone remember that Hogan announced on Nitro that he was going to run for president? I mean, everyone knew that was bull, but, I mean, because no one knows what Hogan stands for. But, I mean, it's the same thing with The Rock when he said, well, I might run for president. But no one knows what The Rock stands for. So it was probably just all bull anyway, and probably part of the storylines to make things more interesting. So, again, why is everyone so butthurt over the Four Horsemen parody when no one was really butthurt over the DX parodies on The Rock or on Vince McMahon? Even when, in 2006, when Triple H dressed up as Vince and Shawn Michaels dressed up as Shane, nobody said anything about any of that. And trust me, they could have, because there was a lot of stuff in there that Triple H did to his future father-in-law, or his father-in-law at the time. There's so much stuff they could have been butthurt about, but nobody said anything because it wasn't supposed to be something that was supposed to hurt Vince's feelings. In fact, Vince probably, before they came out, was laughing it up in the back with Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon was probably laughing too. So, in my opinion, I just think it all happened way too fast, and people just took the Four Horsemen parody way out of context. And they didn't see it as a joke. They only saw it as, oh, well, they were making Arn Anderson look like a drunk. Okay, and all the wrestlers, I'm not saying all the wrestlers were drunks, I'm saying all the wrestlers would go to bars. That's what they would do. Even Kevin Nash admits that if you listen to his podcast, hey Kevin, here's a plug for you. It's called The Click. I check it out on YouTube. But anyway, getting back to, even Kevin Nash admits that they go to bars. They would drink all the time. So to make fun of a wrestler who, you know, would drink beer and, you know, the beer on ice is spoken for, that was not to make Arn Anderson like a drunk. It was just that they all drank. You know, they all went to bars. I'm sure they all went to strip bars too. So, I mean, these are men, guys. They're healthy men. And I'm sure many of them went to bars and they drank beer and drank liquor and stuff happens. And Arn Anderson is not the only one who's been to a bar. Ric Flair, I've heard tons of stories of Ric Flair's escapades in bars. So don't think that just because they focused in on Arn Anderson, they were giving a tribute to the man. And this was like the NWO's tribute to him. But again, the NWO was also making fun of themselves. And they were making fun of, yes, Arn Anderson. They were making fun of Ric Flair. I thought the Sean Waltman Ric Flair crying was hilarious. I mean, hilarious. And every time I think of that, not your dog spot, my spot, you know, every time I hear that not a liver spot, not your dog spot, my spot, I bust out laughing every time, guys. I'm not even kidding. You can ask anybody. When I watch that NWO parody, man, I'm in stitches laughing. Even 20, 30 years later, about 20 years, because I was 11 at the time of this. And I just thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. Okay? So, if that hurts your feelings, I'm sorry, but it doesn't hurt mine. And I'm not going to say I'm sorry for laughing at it, because there's nothing wrong with it. It was comedy in wrestling. And as Jim Cornette says, many, many times he has said, comedy in wrestling is supposed to be there, but it's supposed to be in good context. The context was they were doing a tribute to Arn Anderson. There's nothing wrong with what the NWO did. And it was funny. It was generally funny. Maybe some people didn't find it funny. That's fine. We all have different sense of humors. But to say that the whole wrestling thing was, you know, people were affected, but the NWO fans, their baby faces are the NWO. So they're going to be, oh yay, rah rah NWO. And the Four Horsemen fans are going to be really mad. That was to get more heat for the NWO because the NWO was supposed to be heels. But something kind of happened where they kind of weren't. And that's fine. They can be whatever they want. So, I just wanted to give a little context before we start the show. If you want to join me on Peacock, remember it's 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 58 seconds that we're going to start at. It's Chris Benoit and Buff Bagwell in the scene right now that I'm looking at. Again, a little disclaimer. I'm not doing this for Chris Benoit or for anything benefit, so please don't come after me because Chris Benoit is in it. I can't help it. Curt is in it, so if Chris Benoit happens to be in some of these, you know, matches, I can't help that. That's not my fault that Chris Benoit happens to be in, you know, and I'm not watching this because, we're not watching along with this because of Chris Benoit, okay? I know a lot of people, don't even watch stuff with Chris Benoit. That's fine. That's you. But I'm not going to not watch something with Curt Hennig in it just because Chris Benoit is in it. You know, I don't know what happened with Chris Benoit. I wasn't there. So I'm just letting everybody know that just because we're watching this and it has Chris Benoit in it, I'm not rah Chris Benoit. Okay? Alright, everybody. I'll see you on the other side. Alright, everyone. Welcome back. And thank you for joining me or continuing to join with me. I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and we're going to watch along to this. Now we're going to start a little, back a little bit, before Curt comes out. He does have a sling on, so, remember he's playing the part, that the NWO supposedly jumped him in a break room and broke his shoulder or arm or something. So everyone hit start now. Now, I also want to just let everyone know that, unfortunately, I could not get the pay-per-views when I was this young. My mom refused to pay for them because they were a little pricey. But I would do this thing where Blue Ridge Cable had lines and you could listen to it like a radio. And this is what I would do. So I actually heard this as if it was like a podcast or a radio broadcast. Yeah, I know, that's cheating the system. Oh, bad. But this actually, like I said, I didn't get to see any of this, but I know what happened only because, unfortunately, you know, I listened to it like a radio broadcast, so. Now, we are starting sort of at the beginning of this match, and it'll be a little while before Curt comes into it, but just stick with us. I'm just going to let this go here, and I may make comments about this, only because the commentators at the time, I wasn't really into Tony Schiavone, didn't really like him very much. I barely liked Bobby Heenan, though I learned later that, you know, Bobby did that on purpose. You know, I was all into it. I was 11 years old at this time, and I believed every word of wrestling. To me, it didn't look fake at all. So, and I know that it's fake, but to be honest, I can't tell the difference. I wasn't much for Buff Bagwell. He was NWO, so of course I liked him. Oh, there he just kind of spit on Ric Flair. I wasn't much for Ric Flair, so anytime the NWO got to Ric Flair, I was all for it. Even when Ric Flair was a babyface, I still wasn't much for him. Just because, you know, I just wasn't a big Ric Flair fan. Didn't matter if he was babyface or heel. What I felt bad about is right before Curt went in to the cage and before he turned, they're chanting Sting, Sting. Well, Sting's not in this. Sting was in his own little world. And I'm sorry guys, but I wasn't much for Sting either. Sorry. Like I said, not really much for Buff Bagwell. He isn't talking. I'm sorry, but a little less talking, but Conan wasn't talking. He was just throwing Chris Benoit around. I wasn't a big Mongo McMichael fan. I just know that he played for the Chicago Bears and that he was married to Deborah. That was real. I didn't think it was real, but I later found out that it was indeed real, that he was married to Deborah. Why do they say 13-time? No one really cares about that. Okay, maybe I just don't care about that. Yeah, but Nash isn't going in. Sean Waltman is. Why would they worry about Piper? What did Piper have to do with the Four Horsemen? Excuse me. Alright, Kurt's about ready to come down here, so. There he is. Yeah, how about that? He's just about to turn to the NWO. Yeah, he's gonna show you something. He's gonna show you he's gonna go to the NWO. Like I said, this turn was good. Everything went off, I think, perfectly. No offense, Mr. Perfect. But everything that should have happened, should have happened. Exactly like this. Like I said, and they did it in the right place, which was Charlotte, North Carolina, which was a big Four Horsemen and Ric Flair country. So I think they did it in the right spot to give Curt more heat. Remember, this is all about heat, as Curt will become a heel. I love it how they say, oh, he wants to get out. The cage door is locked. No, it wasn't. It was hanging wide open. Why not? Who says his arm is hurt? I mean, this is exactly how it should have been. I just think that Curt should have been there from the beginning. And that would have made the fans, oh yes, he is the enforcer. He is part of the Four Horsemen. And we can trust him. Because right now, do the fans even really trust him? No one knows. Boom. See, they're yelling for Sting. Sting's not in this, people. Hello? No offense, but you talk about some stupid people. If you wanted Sting part of the Four Horsemen, you should have asked Flair to ask Sting instead of ask Curt Hennig. They're just slapping Ric Flair. Alright, here comes the heel turn, everyone. Just gave the handcuffs to Nash and Conan. Turning to the NWO. Yeah, you fell for it. Yeah, the cage is locked and the door is hanging wide open. Again, just because he shook the hand of Arn Anderson doesn't mean he owes Arn Anderson anything. Again, the 13-time thing is irrelevant. He's vying for the belt now. Try 10. Jackknife powerbomb.
It is apparent the NWO, the Horsemen still say no, darn it. And I'm going to be honest, we got one more chance, big man. Say it. I know they're men, but I almost want to say yes. Get this over with. Right me.
See, Kurt's pointing to the cage door. See, now, kind of don't know what he's doing. You're not really sure what's he going to do. Why is he pointing to the cage door? You can hear the fans yelling at him. And kudos to Curt for ignoring them. I would have turned around and be like, shut up. But that was how professional Curt was. I would seriously be yelling at these fans, like, shut up. But again, Curt is a consummate professional. I actually probably laughed when I heard he had the cage door on his head, slammed on his head. Picture perfect, baby.
The biggest one ever. The most sickening night that I have ever spent. I've spent here tonight. We've got to get out.
I like that. Welcome aboard, Curt Hennig. Alright, guys, that is the end. You can go ahead and stop your show, and I'll meet you on the other side. Alright, everyone. Thank you for joining me. And going through his heel turn to the NWO when he went to WCW. Again, I just think that if Curt had gone into the Four Horsemen from the beginning instead of, just kind of waiting around and stuff and, I'm a free agent, that kind of stuff. Whatever Curt was thinking, I just think that the storyline could have been a little beefed up, like if he had gone in from the beginning and then, I'm a Four Horseman, but I'm going to turn to the NWO. And they could have worked it into, Flair going, why were you talking to Eric Bischoff? You're a Four Horseman, aren't you? And Curt be like, yeah, of course. Of course I am. And then, the whole heel turn would make more sense. Honestly, I think that him joining for 2 weeks was kind of like, they just pressured him. Like I said, there was nothing wrong with the heel turn. The heel turn was great. I think it, really showed his true colors, but I think that, like I said, if they had just kind of started this at the beginning of June, or when he came in, I just think it would have been better, a better story, because he was with them for 3 months, and they have this connection, and they were backing each other up, and he was a true Four Horseman, and then you could just kind of slide in there, oh, by the way, I saw you talking to Eric Bischoff. Why were you talking to Eric Bischoff? That kind of thing. And he'd be like, relax. I was trying to get their game plan. Like, he could play, the mole kind of thing. I just think that he only was with them for 2 weeks, and that could have been, maybe at the time it could have been okay, but, I just think that he should have been in there longer, or he shouldn't have been there at all. And then the DDP stuff, once he got to the NWO, I mean, everyone knows at Starrcade 97, it was Curt and DDP, which, in my opinion, was an exceptional match. I think the Hog Wild match was awesome. I just think that it could have been, if he had done the DDP stuff later. So, I mean, if he, instead of Hog Wild, and DDP trying to get revenge on him for turning at Bash of the Beach. At Bash of the Beach, Curt announces, hey, I'm with the Four Horsemen, and then waited till he was in the NWO to do the DDP stuff. I think that would have been a much better use of his time, and the storyline would have made more sense, I think, because the stuff with him and DDP didn't last very long until he got to Starrcade and Flair was hurt. So, again, the Starrcade probably happened because, happened so fast because Ric Flair was hurt. I believe he hurt his ankle and he was going through personal issues, so he needed to step away from the business for a little bit, and that's fine. Great. I'm glad that he was able to sort out his issues, but it just kind of left everyone thinking, well, why would DDP be against Curt? Why wouldn't it be Ric Flair and Curt in the steel cage? And it's because Flair was hurt. So, so thank you, everyone. Again, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to my podcast. I've had a lot of hits. I've had people email me, which is great. If you need the email address, it's mrperfectisperfect0328@gmail.com, and you can give me any personal messages you want. You can ask me for my handle for PayPal if you'd like to donate and keep the show going. I'm sorry that I've been away so long. I've just have been very busy. My life with a 6-year-old is kind of, busy. Go, go, go. But again, if you would like to donate, please email me and I will give you my handle and you can donate as much as you wish. I do have a PayPal at the moment, so if you would like to donate over PayPal, again, my email address is mrperfectisperfect0328@gmail.com. And again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening, whether you're from Germany or you're from the US. I've even had Venezuela people listen, people from Spain and Russia, and I'm just overwhelmed with how many people are so excited to listen to my take on, Curt's career and Curt's life, because I do believe that he is the greatest wrestler to ever live. He is, if you watch his matches and you were a fan, we're fans together and we can remember him and honor his legacy and honor his life by keeping him alive, so to speak. Keeping him in our hearts and his matches in our minds. I think it's something that any wrestler today would love to aspire to. I would love to, if anyone knows how to get hold of Joe, I would love to talk to Joe Hennig, again, and just tell him how great I think his dad was. And I think he would agree that his dad was pretty great. All right, everyone. Again, if you'd like to contact me and you'd like to donate to the show, please feel free to donate. I'm not sure how long I can go on with the show, but again, feel free to reach out to me at my email address. I gave it to you several times. Feel free to reach out and give me any personal comments. Tell me how much you would loved Curt Hennig and adored his wrestling and his legacy and his career. Okay. Have a great job, everybody. Remember, nobody beats Mr. Perfect. Nobody.